Okay, welcome. So, for everyone who's watching this recording, I'm going to do a fancy formal introduction. I hope you're okay with that, Chris.
Very
Indulge me
good.
for a second.
Hmm.
So, Chris Whitaker is an award-winning New York Times bestselling author, and his book, All the Colors of the Dark, has sold over 1 million copies, which is absolutely bananas. And it's being developed into a TV show. And so he's joining us here today for a Q&A to celebrate the paperback release, which is on sale July 1st. Chris, welcome to Book Huddle Club.
Thank you. You said you had like a couple of people in the waiting room. I thought there'd be like two or three people, and now there's loads of faces on my screen.
Yeah,
So thank you all for coming.
weekdays won't stop any of us. We read your book for our book club in January of this year, and like Chris, we loved it. We loved it.
That's
Which
nice to hear.
Yes. So we've compiled a bunch of different questions for today, and but I just want to emphasize that, if you don't feel like answering any of them, that's totally okay. Just say pass and we won't question
I've
further.
never not answered a question. Maybe you will
Really?
have a question that
I
I
guess
won't want
there's
to answer. We'll find out.
I guess there's a first time for everything, but hopefully you answer all the questions.
All
And
right, well.
as well, group, what I'll do is I'll go through the questions that were submitted beforehand, and if we have any extra time, we'll kind of open it up to the floor where people can ask.
Mhm.
And feel free to use the chat as well. Emma's going to be keeping a close eye on that. Okay, so Chris, starting off with writing, what were the most fulfilling and the most challenging parts of writing this beautiful book?
The most fulfilling, I don't know. Do you know what I was going to say? It was when I finished and I delivered it, but it wasn't because I didn't want it to be published. Like because I had been writing it for so long and I've been living with Patch and Saint for 4 years. It was like wrenching to let go and say goodbye to them, and I couldn't find the ending that I wanted as well. Like I had the ending, I knew where I was heading, but I couldn't find the location until really late. Like we were going to print in about, I think it was about a week, and I still hadn't found the location. So I had like a placeholder ending in, and then I found it, and everything was okay. But so that was probably the most rewarding. The most difficult. There was so many, because I feel like I really love the characters and I really put them through the ringer. And so like writing Patch in the basement was really difficult, even though I knew that it wouldn't be. Like I never describe anything. Like nothing is gratuitous. Like if it's violent, it's over very quickly. It's a fairly factual sentence. Because I always think that what you can imagine in your mind is far worse than what anyone can write down. So I always leave that up to the reader. But yeah, probably Patch being away from Saint for so long was the hardest, and then Patch returning someone kind of different to Saint was really difficult because Saint like has given up a year of her life pretty much searching for Patch, and then the boy that comes back to her is not the boy that she remembers, and so it's kind of heartbreaking for Saint.
Yeah, this isn't a question as much as an observation, but something that really, really moved me about this book was the the exploration of how we can all react to trauma in different ways.
Mhm.
And I just thought it was so, heartbreaking, but also fascinating to see Patch and Saint like really, really grow further and further apart, but have a kind of a connecting element between the two characters.
Yeah, well, she never lets him go,
Yeah.
no matter what he does, and he's a very difficult person to be friends with and stay loyal to, and she always does because I think she remembers where they came from.
Yeah.
And I don't have any friends that I've been friends with since I was a kid. Like I lost touch with everyone I went to school with. So writing a bond like that was really special.
Hmm. Is Saint your favorite character?
I think she's the best character that I've ever written. I think she is innately good and pure and kind and is Patch's moral compass. And yeah, I think, we would all be lucky to have a saint in our lives, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah, I really, really love Saint. She is I don't know where Patch would be without her.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have made it, definitely not.
An even darker place, I think it's safe to
I
assume.
think so. I
Yeah.
think, yeah, I think she kind of tethers him to where he needs to be tethered, and pulls him back into the light many, many times, and is kind of his true north. When he's completely lost, he knows that he can pick up the phone and he can call Saint and she will guide him back to where he needs to be.
Yeah. Okay, so this might be the question that you say no to.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. This will be good.
What was the placeholder ending you originally had?
It was more to do with the location.
Okay.
So I didn't find that location,
Okay.
and it needed to be exactly where it was, where the ending of the story happened, and I had somewhere that didn't particularly fit. It was fairly generic.
Okay.
And then I was reading, it was a week away from going to print, and I was reading this travel article, and someone had been to that area and they noticed the bumper stickers everywhere. And then I researched what the bumper stickers meant and then found out where Blackbeard had been hiding and where the only place in the world where purple honey is made. And it was like this serendipitous, everything lined up at that point, everything fell into place. And I knew that at that point, I knew that I couldn't have written a better book. And I still feel that way now. When I flick back through it, I think this was the absolute best that I could have done.
It
And
was, yeah, it was incredible, honestly. I remember reading the last two lines and like sobbing. It was just so heartbreaking and but also like
Well, it's nice that
poetic.
you cared that much. It's nice that
Oh my
people like
gosh.
people, yeah, people come up to me and tell me that they cried and things, and to care that much for characters that like you didn't know before you picked up the book and you've built this bond with over 600 pages. It's a special thing.
Absolutely. So being from the UK, what drew you to 1970s small town America for the setting?
So America, because I was mugged and stabbed when I was 19, and then I did writing as therapy. So I did
Oh,
there were these rules that you had to follow. I got this book from the library, and one of the rules was you had to set your writing in the last place you were happy. And so, as a 19-year-old, when I look back at my life, my dad took us to Disney World when I was about 8, and that was in Florida. So America became my place to like where my happiest memories lay. So when life was really tough in London, I would sit down and mentally travel 4,000 miles and then be free to tell the story that I wanted to tell. So even now, like 20 years later, after that happened, I still use writing as therapy. It still makes me feel better. Like a lot of people use reading, which I do as well. If you're feeling stressed, if you're feeling anxious, if you feel like you can't cope, it's nice to escape for a while, even through the written word or watching TV or something. We need that escapism, so I still use that. As for Missouri, I had nowhere to set the book. Like I've been writing the book for about a year and a half, something like that, and I had no location for it. And I was working in my local library at the time, and I was reading a non-fiction book about America, and there was loads of photographs, and I'm quite visual. I was looking for like a visual connection with somewhere, and I saw a picture of a place called Dogwood Canyon, which is in Missouri. It's really beautiful. It like really stopped me in my tracks, and from there I began to research Missouri. I knew that it would be in the book. I just didn't know that it would be where the town was set. And the more I found out about it, the more perfectly it fit the story. I wanted Patch to be this kind of landlocked pirate that had never seen the ocean before, because I had this idea for this scene where he sees a boat for the first time and it being really special. So I had all these ideas and I needed that place, but I'd never been there, so it was yeah, there was a lot of research to be done.
I imagine. That's incredible. So I read somewhere, this is a truth buster opportunity. I read somewhere that you used multiple screens when writing this novel. Is that true?
Yes. Yeah, I work across 3 screens. So on the middle screen will be the manuscript that I'm writing, and on the left-hand screen will be photographs of the scene that I'm writing. And I use the example of Saint in the woods in Missouri because there's a lot of those scenes in the book. So I would go online or wherever or into books, and I would find photographs of Missouri woodland in the 70s. And so that covers the left screen, and then on the right hand screen will be everything that Saint can hear and see and feel. It'll be what kind of birds are singing, what plants are growing, how the ground feels underfoot. Everything is described, and then I overwrite the scene with all of that detail, and then I cut, and then I cut again and again and again until I'm left with a single paragraph that makes you feel like you're walking beside Saint. And then I do that for every scene in the book. So I build these scenes out, and it takes a long time, but
I
it's
imagine.
yeah, but I really
Yeah.
want that, that immersive. I love a book when I completely can escape into a book and a story and forget everything around me. That's the kind of story that I wanted to tell. I wanted you to care enough to cry at the end, and that doesn't come easy. It's a difficult thing to do.
Yeah, but well, mission accomplished. I didn't cry just at the end, so and so I feel like the cutting and editing is so evident because you had these really short chapters and very intentional sentences that just packed a punch. Like it was just everything felt so intentional. So well done. And I guess a
But I
million
like
other
it. I
people
like
agree with
to.
me.
Yeah, I don't like, sometimes when you read something and you're a reader and you're kind of being spoon-fed everything. And like I like to, give my readers some credit. They can figure some things out without me over describing everything, or, sometimes less is definitely more.
Love it. So, what core plot points or character journeys did you come up with first? Like, for example, did you know that Pat was going to be a skilled artist, or Patch was going to be a skilled artist? Did you know that Grace was going to be a serial killer's daughter? Like, what were those initial kind of kernels that were driving you?
So I knew where we were headed. I knew that Grace would be real, and I knew that I needed that payoff for the reader and for Patch as well. He's devoted his life, Saint as well. They've sacrificed so much. I needed it to be worthwhile. So we were always heading in that direction. I knew that Patch and kind of Saint as well would draw all this comfort from art, Saint through piano and music, and Patch through painting, because I did in my life. If I hadn't been stabbed as a teenager, there's no way I would have picked up a book and decided to be a writer. No one from my school became a writer. It wasn't a thing. I didn't know any writers. So I found that art really saved me. It really helped me, when nothing else would, when I felt like I couldn't talk to anyone or didn't want to talk to anyone about what was going on. I found that art really helped me, writing everything down. And then that evolved into wanting to write stories and wanting to write stories about kids going through a difficult time, just like I had. So I knew Patch would find that. I just didn't know anything about. I didn't know anything about pirates, didn't know anything about beekeeping, didn't know anything about painting, can't play the piano. I think I get asked a lot about it because I think sometimes people think that I'm transferring things onto my characters that I like, but I definitely am not. They are their own people and I have no real interest in pirates. Now I do because Patch is part of my life. So I had those ideas, and I had the outline pitch. I had the idea for these two teenagers that kind of fall in love and form this bond in the most unimaginable situation, and they can't see each other. And the world is so visual now, isn't it, with Instagram and things like that, and everything is so kind of beautiful to look at, when you look at someone's grid and everyone is kind of having this glow up online and looking amazing. And I thought, I really wanted to strip it all back. I wanted to strip it back to just conversation and two people getting to know each other. And and that's all they really have, Patch and Grace at this point. So I knew I had that. So I had all these components, but I didn't mean for it to span 27 years. I wasn't going to take it that far, but I'd written We Begin at the End, and everyone had been messaging me about Duchess while I was writing Colours. Everyone was messaging me and saying, "Is Duchess okay? What happens next for Duchess?" And it was a really important question, because what does happen to these kids, that have a really difficult start in life? Are they okay? And to answer that, I knew that I needed to follow Patch and Saint into adulthood.
Mhm.
And I also knew that would be really difficult because I'd never written a book that spanned such a time period and didn't feel that confident in it as well. Because it's a challenge to keep people interested for that long and just to write someone's life story. You can write a snippet of someone's life and that will be a crime book, or you can write the love story part of it and that will be a love story. But to try and encompass a life in a book, it's going to span so many genres. I didn't know how that would be received and how they would market a book like that, package it. What does the cover look like? How do you pitch it? Do you call it a crime book? Because it's definitely not a crime book. It's not just a crime book. It's a tricky one, but luckily, I didn't really have to worry about any of that because I had a story to tell. and then I had very clever people to do all the other bits.
Incredible. Back to kind of the passions or hobbies of your characters. What made you choose beekeeping for Saint? Like, what is it about beekeeping that made sense to you for her character?
I wanted something that recalled home and recalled that house and that town for Patch throughout it and for Saint, and it's honey for Patch and it's bees for Saint, and
Hmm.
I knew we were going to have this link towards the end of the book with Theodore, and I just thought it was something very Saint, to do, to find to find this beehive and then want to bring it back to life, and she's so caring and nurturing and there's something really pure about it.
Hmm.
And she manages it, and I knew that the bees would then play a part in the plot, because they disappear, and that's kind of metaphoric of Patch disappearing and Saint losing what is home to her, and Patch definitely losing home, and them not being able to find their way back. For most of the story, I think they're both searching. Saint wants to bring all of Patch back from the basement, but she knows that part of him is down there still with Grace and will be down there until they find Grace. And so that's why she joins him on this journey to bring him home again.
Yeah. Um, what has surprised you most about people's reception to this book?
I think the amount of people that identify, as sad as it is, I used to think because I had quite a difficult childhood, and sometimes you feel like you're the only one. I mean, the rational part of your brain tells you that other people have had a crap time, but if you don't want to talk about it and you're kind of ashamed of it, which I definitely was, and I think a lot of people are, until you see people react to this story and say, "Oh, I can relate to X, Y, and Z." It's only then that the world kind of opens up a bit and these people come into your life and you feel slightly less alone and definitely realize that you're not the only one. And I think that has been the biggest reward um, of doing the book tours and talking to people and having Instagram and having people able to message me and tell me what they thought about the story. It's been, yeah, just like really overwhelming.
Hmm. And I imagine pretty vulnerable too. Like,
Definitely. But I
yeah,
think I think more so because I knew when I finished the book that it was the best book that I could write. And that is like there's a vulnerability in that because normally you write a book and you think, maybe I could have done better. And then when you get a bad review, I could have done next time I'll do it. This time I thought if people don't like the book, I don't have at the moment anything else to give. So that in itself made me feel quite vulnerable
hmm,
and like the book started going out about to readers and to like producers and people like that about a year before it comes out. So you have this year where you're kind of in a bubble, and it happens with most books. You're in this bubble and you're getting lots of positive feedback, but you can't. The true test is when it goes out, across America, across the world, and people start reading it, and then you go onto Goodreads, and then that's the true test of if you've succeeded in doing what you wanted to do.
sounds terrifying.
It is, but with this one, like I just knew, I knew I couldn't have
Yeah.
done better. And so it was terrifying, but I had nothing else, like so I couldn't have gone back and changed anything in the story to make it better. I thought this is the story it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Well, five-star read from me. So I also thought it was absolutely perfect.
Thank you.
Um, let's talk about the TV adaptation. Is there anything that you can tell us?
I can tell you that they're looking at making 4 seasons of TV from one book. So it's a lot of
Cool.
TV. It's a big book, but still, it's a lot of
Yeah.
TV. And I've read episode 1 and 2, and they are very good. And and it was a difficult process because I met with lots of producers, and the book felt so personal, and I care so much about it that if their ideas didn't kind of align with how I saw it, then it would be difficult. But I met Jenna, and I met her about a year before the book came out, and she read it as a producer firstly and we connected and she knew because I think sometimes with the celebrity book clubs you don't know if there's a team of people behind doing the reading and someone
Yeah.
is the face of it, but categorically Jenna knew this book better than anyone. She knew everything about the story. She reads absolutely everything. So to have her as a producer, to have Universal, then we found the writer and the producer, another producer, Sue Nagel, and Sarah Gubbins is writing it, and she is brilliant. And I had seen Pam and Tommy and loved it. I thought it was really well done, and she had written that, and and she had read the book, and yeah, she just knew. She knew where to take it, and it will never be the same as the book. And I've kind of made peace with that. It will be its own piece of art, and the book will exist alongside it. And but it felt really faithful, but really original. So it's exciting.
Very cool.
Mm.
You might not be able to answer this depending on where you are in production, but
Yeah.
who would be your kind of main character dream cast?
That, it's so difficult because I've seen there's websites and things where people have cast it already and they put in their dream cast, and there's names that popped up again and again and again, and they're never how I see the characters, because
Really?
I think because in my mind they're real. It's like, me trying to cast my children in something, who's most like my son. So I find it really difficult. Who do you think?
I'm always I always like when unknowns are found personally for shows,
Yeah.
because then I'm not bringing along any of their past work. Like
Yeah.
I watch a lot of television, and I find that it takes a really, really skilled actor for me to forget their previous work and not
Mhm.
carry it along with me to the next one. So I hope complete unknowns who are very talented are cast
I
personally.
think I think luckily I think they're going to cast two. They're going to have
Cool.
Child, Patch and Saint, which will likely be unknown, and then I
Yeah.
think you need some star power
Yeah.
to pull something along for
Yeah.
Adult Patch and Saint.
Amazing. Okay, so you mentioned how reading and books are a source of inspiration for you. What have you read recently that you would recommend for people who enjoyed this book?
A Prayer for Owen Meany. I read that not that long ago, John
Mhm.
Irving. Oh my God, it's so good. It's so incredibly good. I loved it. Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. By Gabrielle Zevin. Loved it. It's like my favorite book of the last 5 years. And that is a book about friendship. And I think she gets it absolutely perfectly. It's a really hard book to pitch as well. Because me and my dad have we try and buddy read, but he reads like 10 times faster than me. So he finished Omini like a year ago or something, and I just finished it. So I think, yeah, someone has just said A Prayer for Omini is my all-time favorite. Yeah, it's my all-time favorite now. It's right up there. It's that good.
Cool.
Yeah. So probably those. Yeah, just because
Great.
they're kind of big books, aren't they, that span a fair amount of time. But yeah.
I haven't read Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, and I
Oh
know,
my
I
God.
know, I
How?
know
How
I
did that
have to.
happen?
Like, my TBR is like 1,000 books long.
I
That's
get
how
it.
I know. It's like, but
No,
I know
bump it
it's
up.
life changing. I know, and now that you're saying it, I'm gonna have to like
Well,
really.
I was trying to pitch it to my dad, and I said we have to read this one, and he said, "What's it about?" And I kind of said, "Oh, it's roughly like set in the world of video games," and he said, "I'm not going to read it," and so but it's not really. It kind of is, and it isn't. It's really, really difficult to pitch. But he read it, and it's one of his favorite books now, so
Okay,
it worked. Yeah, so
consider
you
me
have to read it.
convinced. Yeah, I will. I promise I will.
I haven't read A Little Life either. I've never read it.
It's heartbreaking.
Apparently, I should. Yeah.
All right. And oh, so what question have you always wanted to be asked that no one has ever asked you?
It's funny because I was just earlier I was asked to ask a question to Lucy Foley because she's doing a podcast here, and another author gets to ask a question, and I asked her what her death row meal would be
Oh,
just so
great.
randomly. And yeah, so and I give that way too much thought. Like there's an outside chance that I'll end up on death row.
Right.
But I yeah, or just because I'm really greedy and I think about food all the time. And I yeah. It changes every day though, that's the problem.
Well, what is it? What is it today? Let's hear it.
Today it's quite hot, so I could drink a margarita. But I don't know if you're I don't know if you're allowed alcohol. You probably aren't allowed alcohol. But
I
I'm
mean, if
gonna
it's your
I'm gonna
last
vent.
meal, I would hope that they could
Yeah.
bring some tequila out, you know?
Yeah. And also like New York pizza. There's a
Yeah.
pizza place in New York that I love, and I don't know if you can get much better than a really good slice of pizza. So that is up there as well. What would you choose?
Oh, that's a good question. I really love Greek food. Like I love a good souvlaki situation.
Me too.
I'm trying to, I would probably be so scared for my inevitable death that I'm not sure
Yeah.
I could eat
That's why you need
anything.
the alcohol. You need
Yeah.
that to take the
So a
edge
good
off.
glass of wine too, I think. Um, and Emma says plain noodles with butter and Parmesan.
Yeah, I get it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. And what are you working on next?
I am writing a book called The Timekeeper, and it is a big, sweeping love story. And it looks at the idea of time and fate and our level of control over those two things.
Wow.
Um, yeah, and it's been tough because I've been touring. I go again next week. I've only been back in the UK for a few days, and I go again, and I'm coming back to the US in a week or so, and that will be like tour number 7, I think, in the US in a year. So it's been intense.
Yeah. But so how do you find time to do it and energy to do it?
Um, I do have the energy definitely because I need it. Like I haven't written for a while and I find it tough. It's like not exercising. Like I struggle after a while and don't feel the world doesn't feel quite right. So I need it. Time-wise, really difficult. Because I can't write when I'm on an aeroplane or in a hotel. I need 3 screens and I need to be shut away in an office, and
Yeah.
so it's been tough. But yeah, I'll get
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Just a bit
Amazing.
late.
Does it span 27 years as
It
well?
doesn't. It spans a year.
Oh,
It's a
cool.
year. Yeah. Hmm.
Cool. Amazing. Well, Chris, we're right at time, so I don't want to keep you, but thank you so much for this Q&A. And your book is so incredibly beautiful, and I'm just so glad that you created this piece of art, really. So thank
Thank
you.
you all for coming, and thank you for such great questions. Yeah, I hope to see you all soon.
Yeah, likewise. Good luck with the tour and
Thank you very much.
congratulations.
Thanks a lot. See you all.
Amazing. Thanks, everyone. Bye.